Marvin Clark left his house on an ordinary autumn morning in 1926, carrying a small bag and a simple plan. Take the train, visit his daughter, come home before nightfall. He never arrived. No body, no struggle, no final goodbye. Only a single postcard appeared weeks later, postmarked hundreds of miles away, suggesting he was still alive. And then, nothing. This is the story of the man who walked into a day like any other and vanished from history. Marvin Clark woke before dawn, as he always did. The house in Tigard was still and gray, the kind of quiet that settled in just before autumn truly arrived. Marvin moved carefully so as not to wake Harriet. He shaved at the small mirror by the kitchen sink, humming softly, an old tune from his railroad days, then buttoned his brown wool suit, the one he reserved for proper errands. When Harriet finally appeared in the doorway, tying her robe, she smiled. "You don't need to dress like that just to see Dorothy," she said. Marvin smiled back. "A man should look like himself when he travels." He poured coffee, folded a newspaper he never finished reading, and checked his pocket watch twice. The plan was simple: catch the train into Portland, visit his daughter, return before supper. He had made the trip countless times. At the door, Harriet paused him. "You sure you don't want me to come along?" she asked. Marvin shook his head. "I'll be back before you miss me." Those were the last words she ever heard him speak. Neighbors later said they saw Marvin walking toward the station, hat tipped politely, stride unhurried. Nothing about that morning hinted it would be remembered at all, except that Marvin Clark would never be seen again. By evening, Harriet had set the table. By nightfall, the food was cold. At first, she assumed delays, missed connections, a long visit, a tired old man choosing to stay overnight. But by morning, worry crept in like a draft through an unseen crack. She retraced his steps, the station, the platform, the clerk who sold tickets. Yes, Marvin had been there. Yes, he'd boarded. Yes, someone remembered his hat. But no one remembered him arriving. Days passed, then a week. Police questioned conductors, porters, ticket collectors. Marvin's description was circulated: 68, average build, graying hair, reserved demeanor. A man who didn't draw attention. That, it seemed, was the problem. No hotel registered his name. No hospital admitted him. No accident was reported. He had simply slipped through the seams of the city. Then weeks later, the postcard arrived. It was postmarked Bellingham, Washington. The handwriting resembled Marvin's, careful, slightly slanted. The message was brief. Ordinary. Too ordinary. "Doing fine. Will explain later." Harriet stared at it until the ink blurred. How had he traveled so far without leaving a trail? Why write this and nothing more? Authorities followed the lead north. They found nothing. No witnesses, no receipts, no Marvin. The postcard became the cruelest object in the house. Proof of life, or proof of nothing at all. Years later, a man came forward. He claimed he had seen Marvin Clark in Portland's terminal, sitting alone on a bench, bag at his feet, staring straight ahead as if waiting for instructions no one else could hear. "I thought he looked lost," the man said, "but peaceful, like he wasn't afraid of being where he was." The description unsettled Harriet more than any rumor. Marvin had always believed in schedules, destinations, purpose. What would make him sit still while the world moved around him? Theories multiplied. Amnesia, foul play, a deliberate disappearance. But none fit the man Harriet knew. She began to imagine something else. Not dramatic, not violent, but quiet. A wrong train. A moment of confusion. A step taken into a life not meant for him. Sometimes, late at night, she imagined Marvin standing in a crowd, unable to explain who he was, watching names and places drift away from him like leaves in a river. Alive, perhaps, but unreachable. Time moved on, as it always does. Harriet kept the house the same. Marvin's coat stayed on its hook. His watch lay untouched. She learned how absence could have weight, how a missing person could fill a room more completely than someone alive. People stopped asking questions. Files gathered dust. Marvin Clark became a line in a ledger, then a footnote, then almost nothing at all, except to Harriet. She never remarried, never moved. She listened for footsteps that never came and letters that never arrived. And sometimes, only sometimes, she allowed herself to believe that Marvin had crossed some invisible boundary that others couldn't follow. Not death, not escape. Marvin Clark's disappearance remains one of the oldest open missing person cases in American history. No resolution, no remains, no final answer. Just a man who left home to see his daughter and stepped out of the record of the world. And perhaps that is the quiet terror of it. Not that something terrible happened, but that nothing obvious happened at all. That a life can vanish not with noise or violence, but with a single, ordinary decision: to leave the house. Some disappearances ask who did it. Others ask where someone went. But the most unsettling ones ask a different question entirely. How thin is the line between being here and being gone? If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who thinks mysteries are always loud. Like, follow lanes and lanterns, and tell us in the comments, do you think Marvin Clark chose to disappear, or did something unseen intervene?